next candidate this evening is Mr. Jeff Wiggins. Jeff, yeah, help yourself to a glass of water before we get started. Okay, we're each going to take turns asking you a question, and we've taken turns starting out, and I will be starting out with you this evening. So as a board member, we're called on to make some tough decisions for the good of the district. Would you be able to put aside personal opinions or ideas so you can consider what is best for the district?
Absolutely. I found in law school, through my studies, that there are a lot of people that place ideological beliefs or political beliefs ahead of what truly the facts would show. And that is something that should not be done in political life, let alone here at the local level. This is a nonpartisan board, and this is the first line of defense, if you will, for the citizens of Livonia. I think it is necessary and required that everyone look at the empirical data in front of them and the facts that they've been provided, discuss it with other members of the board, regardless of whether they agree or disagree with your opinions, and then make an educated assessment of what needs to be done for the district. I know my resume is sparkled with certain organizations of political persuasion. However, I feel that those should be viewed keeping in mind what I just said. And my personal involvement in those organizations, I think, exemplifies my desire to be a part of the process. Now, my opinion in certain circumstances is something that everyone will have. Everyone will have a certain opinion. But in my case, anything along party lines will not be considered in any opinion that I have. But as a personal opinion, everyone has them, and they should only go so far.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Burton.
Good evening. Thank you very much for putting your application and being willing to serve our community in this manner. Appreciate it. What are the major challenges that you see that face our school district right now, and how might your experiences be an asset to the board in making the decisions that we have coming upon us?
Well, obviously one of the major problems is going to be the fact that we're going to most likely be receiving less money from the state than we did last year. Every model or plan that I've seen and any discussion that I've heard has everybody losing more. And I think you have to be able to know that difficult decisions are going to have to be made. And some people are going to be upset about it. Some people are going to be angry about it. But as long as we are able to keep this forum open, transparent, and serve as a representative of the citizens and make it known to them and gain their trust or maintain their trust, I think that can be, we can achieve that. I think that, so obviously funding would be one of the big issues. Another big issue is the fact that we're going to have to select places that no one wants to cut. We're going to have members of the community come in here. One person will say cut from here, not from here, and the other will say the opposite. And at the end of the day, we have to realize that we are going to anger some people. Just like the governor's doing in Lansing. Not everyone's going to be happy with this plan. In fact, almost everybody's going to have some kind of problem with his plan. And I think that's going to be the same case for us. But as long as we're honest and open, I do think the citizens of Livonia are smart enough to realize that everyone on this board is looking out for the well-being of the students and the community and keeping in mind the resources that we have.
Thank you.
Mr. O.
Could you tell us about your involvement in the school district, or in other words, in what way have you served the school district and or the community?
Well, I currently serve, work in Representative John Walsh's office and have been essentially, maybe not forced, but allowed to research more and more the education issues as they come more to the forefront for statewide issues, but of course that allows me to look at it from a district issue as well, or from a district perspective as well. Obviously, I've never been on PTA. I've never been on a subcommittee or on the board, but I have paid attention over the past couple of years to specifically the school board, but Livonia in general as the way it operates. I'm aware of some of the concerns parents do have in regards to certain subjects being eliminated, teachers being asked to sacrifice more, and some teachers being laid off. So I'm aware of the sacrifices. Now, obviously, I don't have some of the experience specifically on any PTA or subcommittee for that matter, but I do think my recent experience and current experience with the education system allows me to understand more than someone who has, no offense, been removed for some time, what some students are thinking. And that type of perspective allows me to take a point of view that somebody on the board may not currently have. You know, they say when you have children, it completely changes your life. And I'm sure all of you can agree with that. However, I have not had children. I hope to one day, but I think that allows me to take a perspective that none of you are able to do and assess the situation for the long-term future of our city and not just the short-term, which many of you see and hear from your children or have heard from your children. And I hope I answered your question as detailed as you would like.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
No problem. Thank you.
What do you see as the board's role and responsibility?
Well, I touched on it before, and it's to implement what is necessary for Livonia's school district to be the best that it can be. But it must be in line with how the people want the school district to function. Now, what the people think sometimes isn't necessarily what the board sees. And like I said before, if we can be more open and more transparent, we can bring the citizens of the community into our process more, and so they have the same kind of information that we have. Now, education in general is the pillar of local communities. When young couples get married and choose to move somewhere, the first question they ask is, what are the schools like? And regardless of whether you have kids in the schools or will be sending kids to the schools, I think is irrelevant, because you're going to be living in the community. And this board's job is to make sure that we have a first-class public education system that can be attractive to people who will be coming to Livonia. I know the recent census statistics may show that we lose population this year. That can't continue to happen if our city is going to be successful going into the future. And I think this board can come up with new ideas, become more innovative in their procedures, and attract new people to the community and show that we have a first-class education system.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Mrs. Mang?
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. As a board member, you're going to be called on to make some tough decisions, some of them popular, some of them unpopular. What qualities do you possess that will allow you to make these decisions?
I think that many of you have discussions with me, and I'm able to be a personable individual. I have no problem talking with anybody about anything. As long as they are being truthful and honest with me, I'm able to listen to them. And I think when there is that open network of communication, of honesty, it allows individuals to make those difficult decisions. Because people know that you're a genuine person, or that you don't have any agenda to run, or There's no personal bias that you may have. They know that you're doing what you're doing because that's what you believe is best for the district. I would also say that I've served on decision-making bodies before. Now, they might not be the caliber of this board or the importance of this board, but I've observed how group decision-making occurs and how it has gone horribly wrong and how it has been successful. And I think my experience with that, seeing both sides, two extremes, allows me to realize what is necessary. And I referenced it several times, is honesty and trust. And I think that is what it is.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Mr. Freeman?
Thank you. You said that you work for and represent John Walsh's office.
Yes.
Can you explain how this might be a benefit to the district? Okay, and I sort of want to touch, is it a conflict, and would you still be allowed to work there if you were on the board? I don't want to hurt your employment
Absolutely.
by assignment, by appointing you here.
I think, I'm reminded of an incident that happened a couple months ago. I was here at a meeting where it was announced that John Walsh, Representative Walsh, Glenn Anderson, Senator Anderson, and Dr. Leopa had worked together to secure as much money as they possibly could for this district. I don't think there's anybody in this room that can deny that John Walsh's dedication to our education here in Livonia is in any way on the lower end. He is probably one of the most dedicated public servants we've had in a long time. And I think that anything I say to John Walsh is not going to hinder his dedication to the education system here in Livonia, because I think that he already does everything in his power to help us. Now, obviously, that could be a benefit as well. I mean, the qualities that he has and possesses, and the knowledge he has of the education system, he can share with me. And that will allow me to bring that back to the board and use that as a tool. Obviously, it could be perceived that anything that John Walsh would agree with, and I agree with, then people could make a connection and say, oh, well, he's just agreeing with John Walsh. But I do believe, and I've had discussions with John about education before, I do believe there are some instances where John and I do disagree. And while we haven't gone into in-depth conversations about that, I can guarantee you that there are some disagreements between him and I. And I'm just serving in his office to help him represent the district, not advance anything of my personal persuasion.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, that does it for our formal questions this evening. What we're doing is giving everybody 2 minutes at the end. If there's anything that you would like to let us know about yourself, or the benefits to having you on the board that have not come out in the answers this evening, feel free to let us know now.
Well, I understand that it's going to be looked upon as a negative to some people regarding my age. I am 25 years old. I would be the youngest board member. However, I've not looked at that as a negative, but more as a positive. It brings, like I said, another perspective to the board that we haven't had on the board. And I think many people in the community would appreciate a new perspective. I'm going to be open, I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to agree with everything someone says or another person says. I'm going to be vocal in my disagreement. And I hope the citizens of Livonia can learn to trust me, as I will hope to receive their communication and form a trust with them. I plan on remaining in this community for a very long time. So the education system is one of the things that are very dear to my heart. I don't intend on leaving anytime soon. So any decision I make is, I hope people will know this for the betterment of the community. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for turning in your application and for being here this evening for the interview. If you'd like to have a seat in the audience. And so if board